Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take. Oh, this is big. There was a protester in New York who went to the Black Lives Matter street and poured paint all over it. And the reason she is being touted as the hero, although a few other people did it too, is because not first off, she did something. She did real civil disobedience, right? She spread all this paint around, and then she got arrested. And she went quietly with the police, basically, and they had to let her go because of bail reform. And so the moment she got out, she went out and she defaced another one. And the thing that's great about it is not only is she a big supporter of not having Black Lives Matter on the street, but she's also black herself. So what are people going to say to her? Are they going to say to her that she's a racist because she's painting over Black Lives Matter? It kind of doesn't work, does it? She's saying all lives matter. And she's pretty religious, so she's saying Jesus matters. Another thing they did is the moment she got out from being arrested the first time, her and her crew went back, and they're all religious, and they got a bunch of paint, and they got in the car, and they opened the back of the car, and then they drove over Black Lives Matter while they dumped out the paint on the street. And man, people got mad. People got furious. And but hey, this is a kind of civil disobedience. And you brought this on yourselves, right? I mean, you can't be part of Black Lives Matter Antifa rioting, tearing down statues left and right, and then expect, well, we painted Black Lives Matter in the street. You have to leave that alone. No, you've set quite a high bar for civic disobedience. Either you go to jail for the statue defacement and all the other things you've done, or that's nothing. I mean, that's nothing. And, Tim Pool's talking about morality policing, that certain crimes will be crimes merely because they don't agree with certain political views. And I agree with him that, that can't stand. That absolutely cannot stand. And I don't think it will stand. I don't think it will stand in a court of law. I think anything like that can be easily appealed and overturned. You have to have fairness under the law. So if you're going to allow rampant destruction and rioting in your city, de Blasio, then you have to allow people to paint over Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, he's got 27 officers guarding Black Lives Matter in the street. Can you imagine all the crime? New York crime rate has skyrocketed. He's got 27 guys guarding a street with words on it. Words that he shouldn't have put on there. Now they're going to probably end up suing the city to paint every street with every kind of message. Because if Black Lives Matter can do it, de Blasio, then any political group can do it. And when I mean any political group, I mean you're going to get the crazies coming out of the woodwork to buy time on your streets. And you're going to get the craziest sayings all over your streets. And it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to look terrible. People will constantly be complaining about the streets and the damage done to their press's message. You're going to have people run over in the street, running out to repaint things and hold up traffic. I mean, you want to talk about a can of worms you opened up. It's idiotic. You should have never done this. Never in a million years painted that on the street. Put up a sign, maybe. Okay. If you're so in the Black Lives Matter, you got to put up a sign or whatever, fine. But painting a public street, you've opened up a can of worms, you moron. Now everybody's going to want to do that. How are you going to run the city where every political group, and there are a lot in New York, there are a lot of crazy ones too, a lot crazier than Black Lives Matter are going to show up looking for their permit, looking for their street. And once you start charging, there are companies who are going to come in and buy it all up. Sure, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't the corporations want in on that action and advertise things? And then nobody will get to do it. I guess that'll be the end result. The end result is you'll drive through New York and all the streets will be covered curb to curb with ads. And you'll just be like, God, the street looks terrible. And there'll be skid marks over it, and like the sun will like melt some of the images, and like cars will run over it and warp them, and it'll look stupid because, you know, they'll have to paint the street quickly, so they'll eventually resort to some sort of covering on the street that like bonds with the street and some kind of adhesive. That's what I'm waiting for. Not that I'm suggesting this, but I'm actually waiting for some All Lives Matter protesters to come in with a giant sort of adhesive sticker and just put it over the entire street and just, you know, stamp it down to the point at which if they try to tear it up, it'll then pull up Black Lives Matter, and then they'll have to paint it again. But who knows? I mean, who knows? Somebody put another suggestion on the street, which was all babies' lives matter. You see what you've opened up here? Now you're going to get into an abortion argument in the middle of the street. I mean, why did you do this? Why, de Blasio? I can't see any point in your political grandstanding. You're not going to be president, not even close to getting nominated, and you know, you're not winning the optics war against Trump. You're living in New York, and if anything, you're causing people to turn to Trump. I mean, the Jewish community in New York City has got to be so anti-Bill de Blasio at this point. They got to be ready to vote for Trump. I would think. After what de Blasio did to the Jewish Orthodox community, he wouldn't let their schools open. He wouldn't let them have funerals. Oh, but he can let Black Lives Matter protesters run around all day long. It's just not going to help them. Most of the Black Lives Matter protesters and Antifa especially, they don't vote. They don't vote. How many times do you have to lose an election to figure this out? They don't vote. They're not even registered. You know, when you think rioting and raiding a Nike shoe store is a good idea, you're not exactly an upstanding citizen that remembers to register to vote. You're generally a scumbag. So scumbags don't care. They care that the shoe store got looted and they got a piece of it, but that's as far as their care goes. They don't think like, well, if I keep re-electing de Blasio, I might get to loot some more stores. No, they don't even think about it that hard. It's just like, today I'm going to loot. Tomorrow, who knows what I'm doing. They're not going to vote for you, dummy. So who are you appealing this to? What part of your base likes this? The rioting in the streets or any of this? I don't see any kind of base here. You're just destroying yourselves. And this woman, this religious woman who's black, and her cohorts, these are the new Trump voters. Oh, they're voting for Trump. They had Trump stuff on them all day long. There was also a woman who claimed to be from LGBTQ. She was there in one of the videos, said she's voting for Trump too. She had a rainbow Trump flag. So you're just losing voters. The only people you got are the rioters. How many people can you let out of jail? And those people don't vote either, in case you don't know. So stop. Just stop what you're doing right now. All you're doing is hurting the people of New York City. And they have their own problems. They're sick of you. And I guess New York's going to turn red. I guess New York's going to turn red whenever you're up for re-election. I imagine it's not November, because otherwise maybe you wouldn't be doing this.